So HBO Max's brand new documentary series, Hollywood Demons, just dropped episode 3 titled The Dark Side of Power Rangers. Now, going into this documentary, I didn't have a lot of expectations, to be honest. I mean, I wasn't expected to be blown away by it. I was expecting to walk away feeling or meh. But walking away from this documentary episode hit really freaking hard because what it goes into the dark side of Power Rangers, of course, and I was not expecting how deep they would go into it with the topics they cover. And they cover more than expected, and some of them really caught me off guard with one of the things they brought up within the documentary. So this whole documentary covers the dark side of Power Rangers. It covers the quote-unquote Power Rangers curse that's been going on for a long time. And the whole build-up towards the end of the documentary is the passing of Jason David Frank when he took his own life in 2022. And the build-up towards that is within this documentary. But the things it covers leading up to it definitely has your attention, because if you're a hardcore Power Rangers fan, then you probably know a lot of these stories, but the deep dive they go into a lot of these stories, getting the interviews, the stories and stuff like that, I was not expecting to see a lot of the interviews they got. I mean, they brought on a few people who worked on Power Rangers. They brought on Tony Oliver, one of the stunt coordinators, Sierra Hanna, Jason Thorne, and Aaron Choki from Bat & Sun. And although I have my differences with Aaron online, hearing him at the end of the documentary did tear at the heartstrings, because like we've said before, he did lose a friend, and having Aaron in the documentary was a surprise, but it was interesting to hear his perspective on a lot of things, and especially near the end, where he did talk about the premiere of Legend of the White Dragon, how he wanted Jason beside him. That did hurt a lot, because that was Jason and his dream to have that movie premiere together. And that did hurt a lot in the end. Hearing that part, that did tear at the heartstrings. But what they do with this documentary is it talks about the pop culture phenomenon that was Power Rangers, how it started, how it became a overnight success, and how it blew up. And then it talks about how Austin St. John, Walter Jones, and Twee left. And it also talks about how Audrey Debris also left as well, and stuff like that. So it goes through this really good, consistent timeline with how the show filmed the pilot, how they were underpaid, and when Audrey left, and then it goes on to talk about other things, and then it talks about when Austin, Walter, and Twee left, and stuff like that. And it slowly builds up towards a timeline of each of the tragic Power Ranger events that happens. One of the things that caught me off guard that I was not expecting for them to cover in this documentary was Austin St. John committing the PPP loan, the COVID fraud loan that he got involved in all those years ago. I was not expecting them to cover that in that documentary, because I was thinking it's not that dark, it's not that tragic, but it is a scandal within the Power Rangers fandom, and they cover it, and that really took me off guard, because I feel like the Austin St. John stuff doesn't have enough eyes on it, and seeing this be shown in a big documentary, it put a lot of eyes on it, and that's fascinating to see. Now, one of the other things that caught me off guard was the Ricardo Mendina story that they cover, Wild Force Red, how he murdered his roommate. And one of the people they bring on, because they set up this whole narrative leading up to the night of the event when the person was stabbed. And the story is that Ricardo dated this person. They owned a ranch. Ricardo claimed to be a dog trainer, and she hired him to train the dogs, but Ricardo would just lounge around on the ranch and do nothing. Brought his girlfriend along. They would lock themselves in their room, and apparently that he was going to get kicked out. And he was going to get kicked out by the person who owned the ranch's brother. And apparently during that one night, the night before he was going to get evicted, there was the altercation that led to it. And hearing the person's family member that passed away definitely also hit really hard as well, because I had not heard the full story of this, because it always you always hear the abridged version of it. That is, Ricardo stabbed the person with the sword and stuff like that. And then they actually go into the autopsy report. They actually go into the psyche of Ricardo and his background and stuff like that, and saying like, oh, if someone would be doing this, they would definitely be like a sociopath and stuff like that. So they really dive into his psyche, like leading up to like Ricardo stabbing the guy. Now, one of the things they do bring up, but they don't go into detail with it too much, and that is the passing of Ninja Storm Red, where he passed away in 2019. He took his own life, and although he's remembered, not a lot of people bring up what came out after his passing, and that he was suffering from a lot of things going on. And one of the things we found out that is he was a wife beater. He was involved in a lot of DV and domestic violence, and that is brought up in this interview. Like, it isn't brushed over, but it is brought up and brought spotlight on, because that was kind of one of the part of the story that not a lot of people brought up with. Another thing that also caught me off guard with this documentary is they talk about the passing of Twee, and one of the people they interview is one of the people who was in the car accident with Twee at the time, who survived, and you find out that they're paralyzed from the waist down. So they bring a lot of people involved in this documentary, like leading up to it, getting all the interviews and stuff like that. And hats off to like everyone they could get their hands on for this documentary episode. I mean, you even get to see Este in this documentary like a couple of times, because they bring up one of his videos talking about the Power Rangers curse, and that caught me off guard, seeing Este within the first couple of minutes of the video. That definitely caught me off guard. Now, the last 30 minutes of the documentary is talking about the history of Jason David Frank, like how he rose to fame and Power Rangers and stuff like that, a little bit about his backstory. They talk about his brother Eric, who also took his own life in 2001, and they sort of dive into his psyche as well, because one of the people they have in this documentary is this MD, is a psychologist, and he's sort of like dissecting the mindset of like everyone like being put under the microscope in this documentary, from like freaking Ricardo Mendenas, Pua, Jason David Frank, Eric, and stuff like that. They have like everyone under like the microscope from this guy who is really picking their brains out. And it's interesting that they have this professional on, because like it's someone who's sort of diving into the mind psyche of everyone involved in this documentary. So like I said, the big thing for this documentary is it leads into the passing of Jason David Frank when he took his own life almost 3 years ago at this point this year. And it is a hard watch through when you get to that part. I will say that it is a very hard watch through, seeing it brought up again, because like we all remember where we were in real time when we got the news of Jason David Frank taking his own life. So that was really hard to swallow as well. But also, like, you learn that what was in his system that night, when the guy says of the toxicology report, I believe. So you do find out that JDF had like a fair bit in his system, but that doesn't change my opinion of him or anything like that. But like I said, this documentary, it's definitely worth checking out. It's definitely worth checking out, whether you're a casual fan of Power Rangers or if you're a hardcore fan of Power Rangers. It is definitely worth checking out, because like I said, the extensive detail where they spend like the first 30 minutes talking about the rise of Power Rangers, and then they go into like each psyche and mindset of all the incidents that happen within the Power Rangers fandom within the past couple of years, talking about Ricardo and stuff like that, that definitely builds towards it, as it's like a solid timeline of everything leading up to it. And even having the interviews there were pretty good as well. Like you have Nakia, like I said, Ciara, Jason Thorne, Aaron, and stuff like that. And they do give some pretty good hindsight with their thoughts and opinions and stuff like that. And it's an interesting watch for. I feel like one of the things that also was an interesting to see is Jason Thorne is reacting to like a video that JDF posted that he never saw, where JDF was talking about celebrities and stuff like that. And he never saw that video before. And that's that's another moment that caught me off guard, like that he never saw that video as well, and he's reacting to it for the very first time. But definitely check out this video if you've got HBO Max. HBO Max just dropped in Australia and they only had episode 1 on, so I had to use a VPN to watch this episode. So definitely check it out if you can. Give it a watch, give it a sit through. I'll definitely leave some links in the description down below for help you can get if you are suffering from depression or anything like that, or mental health and stuff like that. I will leave links in the description down below, that is for sure. But yeah, this is definitely worth a watch through, and I feel like I underestimated how good this documentary would be and the deep dives it went into, that is for sure. But it is hard to swallow at some parts. Trigger warning, I guess, for some people, but it's definitely worth checking out, and I guess I underestimated how good this documentary would actually be. And I'll definitely check out the other episodes when they start dropping as well. But have you guys watched the documentary? Have you checked it out yet? Tell me your thoughts in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions. And with that said, I will catch you guys later. Peace out, take care, and bye.